Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday Night Live. So, this week we are pre recorded, and that's because I am actually not home at the time of this being aired. So, I'm going to get into that in a second. But first, we've been talking about my experience with ayahuasca in Peru that I just came back from last week. And I've already in the previous videos talked about Soltara, the facility. I've done a breakdown of night one, night two, and then some stuff that came up for me on night two about ayahuasca telling me I was gay and that I need to stop trying to make it work with men because it's not going to work for me. So if you want, go back and watch those parts. We're going to continue on in my ayahuasca journey into nights 3 and 4 of my ceremonies. So, oh, sorry about that. I'm sure that made a lot of noise, my notebook falling. Okay. So, after 2 nights of the ayahuasca, and if you go back and listen, or if you've already listened, you know how difficult it was for me. I really had a hard time on these nights. Now, the way that they do it at Soltera is that they actually give you a break. So you do 2 days, a day off, and then the last 2 days. So it was a much needed day off in between these ceremonies. Like I said, I had a really rough time and I had a lot of things presented to me. You know, I had information presented to me about my sexuality, and I was still processing that. It wasn't that I was going to talk about it with anyone. I didn't say anything. I was just letting it sit that day. And it was so nice for us to be able to, as a group, get to hang out, get to eat dinner, because you don't get to eat dinner when you're doing the ayahuasca those nights. And then let's get into day 3. Well, of the third ceremony, because now we're probably on the 5th day of the actual retreat because we had a day off in between and the day we arrived. So, what would be night 3 of the ceremonies, we did during the day a little ceremony. So, what I've been talking about is there's these little ceremonies, which are group shares where you go back into the same maloka, back into the same room where all of the ayahuasca ceremonies are held. But during the day, you're there with the facilitators and you kind of talk about what's been coming up for you. Sometimes you do different exercises. Everybody kind of gets the vibe of where everybody is at right now. And on that day, we did a really cool limiting beliefs exercise. And what I loved about this exercise is it really didn't give your mind enough time to rehearse. And they made a big emphasis on the fact of like, do not rehearse your limiting beliefs, because once we know we're working on limiting beliefs, we're like, oh, okay, money, relationships, and you start kind of thinking about what you want to say in this uh, exercise. And what they did was a really cool way of pairing up with someone. So I kind of had someone in mind when they were like, okay, and then you're going to pick a partner. And I was like, I want her. There was a woman there who she was with her husband. I mean, I believe she was about to be 60 and he was in his 70s. And they had just been so amazing. And she's the person who would turn on the tears really quick, but it actually like gave us all permission. So every day I was like, you know what? Thank you for giving us permission to get emotional today. Like, thank you for opening up the floor for tears. If there was the toilet paper roll, she's like, let me just get some, because you know what? And so she was so open and so sweet and so loving. So when I heard we were going to do a limiting beliefs exercise, I kind of felt like, I want her. Let me get her. But the way that we found our partner was very unique. So what we would do is I'm vaguely remembering because it was all a lot, but I'm pretty sure like we would like put our hands and gaze like kind of at our hands and walk forward. So everybody on the opposite sides of the room, I start walking towards her stuff, but she starts walking past me and I'm like, "Oh, well there she goes. I'm not going to get her." And so everybody kind of is walking slowly, gazing in different directions. And then they're like, okay, now turn around. And the person that you catch eyes with first is who is your partner. And my partner was my friend who I made at this retreat. And he was almost like my little brother, you know, not saying he was like my brother that I have, but he was like a brother to me. And he was He's younger. He's about 26, I believe, and he really knows his stuff in this field of stuff. So it was also perfect that we ended up there together because he was originally supposed to go to the Costa Rica location. Last minute, it got flipped up and he ended up coming to Peru instead. And so he was talking about Law of One and, ascension and 5D and the densities and New Earth. And he was so excited to talk about it. I, didn't even share that, like, I shared a little bit about it, but I'm like, you don't even know, like, this is my jam. This is what I talk about. This is like my thing. But so we had bonded a lot on different conversations and things. And also, a lot of what he had talked about was, kind of slaying his dark side and, getting rid of the weak side and fully coming into the ascension. And he was kind of like, he's like, I get to these points of enlightenment and then I feel like I go backwards. And I'm like, no, man, there's no going backwards. Trust me, there's no going backwards. I used to feel that way, but now I realize, and I sent him a clip of Bashar, even though I've talked about, I don't know too much about Bashar, but this clip of like kind of reaching enlightenment and then feeling like you go backwards, but you're actually not going backwards. It's just like stairs. So you're not going backwards, you're staying there. It's just you can't stay in a state of oneness or enlightenment and have this human experience. So it feels like backwards because you get these glimpses of pureness. So then you're kind of like that, and then like that, and like that, and like that. It's not actually, I'm going up and going down. I'm going up and I'm going down. That's not the truth. So we had a lot of very deep conversations leading up to this point, and then we got paired up as our limiting beliefs partners. And so what was interesting is, he's someone who deals a lot with his masculinity because he's very macho and he likes being macho. And I'm also someone who was very in my masculinity and have been finding my femininity more over these years of healing and stuff like that. And so we had a lot of mirroring limiting beliefs. So this exercise is, I'll tell you the questions. You can write them down and do it with a friend if you'd like. What core belief do you have that is limiting you? Where does this belief originate? How does it affect you? And what belief or practice can you cultivate instead? So what's cool about this exercise is that, yeah, the first one and the second one, you get to rehearse a little bit, you get to kind of know in your mind what these limiting beliefs are. But they keep it going for about 15 minutes and you hold the space for the other person and they keep asking, okay, what limiting belief do you have? What limiting belief do you have? So you go through it and then they ask again. And it's almost like, oh, I need to come up with another limiting belief. But then it really starts to come out, the truth. And then more starts to come out, and things that you actually maybe didn't even admit to yourself start coming out. And you just hold the space for the other person. And it was really beautiful to see how our limiting beliefs in some way were exactly the same, or in some way a mirror of each other. And so it was actually a really super healing exercise. So in these first 2 nights, as you know, I had been faced with the fact that there was self-hatred inside of me. And by the end of the second night, I had been 95% purged of it. That's what I was told at the end of the night, was like, don't worry, it's leaving you. It will be gone 100%. You're 95% clear. We got 5% more to work on. And that's really deeply embedded in. And I was like, okay. But then I'm like, oh, I only got 5% left. What am I going to work on for these next 2 nights of ceremony? Well, then we go to this limiting beliefs exercise and I start to see all of these other things coming up for me. Yes, stuff around money, stuff around love, stuff around relationships. Those are things that I knew. Now, some of the other things that came up was, one of the things was that something that actually has been for a long time in my life, and I feel like I had worked on, but there was still residue of it in my life. And so with that, what was coming up is that, I feel like a limiting belief that I have, what came up was that I'm going to be able to do a lot for others emotionally, psychologically, advice-wise, being able to hold space, being able to help people with their problems, and not so much in like giving gifts or things like that. Like in holding the space and in speaking and helping people figure things out and guiding them on their way and giving the advice, giving the information, but that it's rare that somebody can hold the space for me. And it's rare that I have friends or people in my life that are able to do the same. And it doesn't make me angry or resent them because I understand that it's just not everybody has the capacity to. And I also understand that I have a lot of very deep seated things that a lot of people don't know how to give the advice for. So it's not that I feel like resentful of the reciprocation. I just feel like it's kind of not possible and that it's okay. I'm still going to help people. I'm still going to give advice. I'm still going to hold space. And if the person is able to do what they're able to do, then I feel that it's equal because I'm doing it to my capacity and they're doing it to their capacity, even if their capacity is not enough or not what I really need. So I was kind of like having this stuff come up about reciprocation, about giving a lot and then not receiving an even or fair amount back. And not to say that I never do, this is not about anyone in my life individually. This is a limiting belief that I have, that I'm always going to be met with this inequality of energy exchange. And even though I've done a lot to work on it, as we were doing this exercise, it came up and it made me realize, like, actually, I'm still not there yet. There still is stuff with this. And one of the other limiting beliefs that came up was also about having to work harder than other people, and also that's something that has changed in my life because things have come much more easily to me in my 30s. But I still have some of those thoughts and beliefs from when I was younger. And, part of that comes from growing up poor and having to work harder, seeing other people being able to, do things. And then me, I have to work twice as hard. I need to have an extra job. I need to be working all the time. Other people would get to say, go on vacation with their family. It's like, I would have to work and save so much to be able to do that. Or like, my car, for example. I didn't have my first car until I turned 30 years old and was able to afford one myself. And I, by the way, just paid it off before my trip was my last payment on my car. So now my first car is officially mine. But these were the things that a lot of other people around me had some assistance with. Maybe they were able to get a car from their family or be able to help with some of the payments, or maybe with the insurance on the family's insurance, or these just different things. And so I had always also felt like, oh, I have to work harder than other people. For me to, even me moving to LA, I had all these friends from when I was working in film in New York, and everyone's like, yeah, I'm going to go to LA and work in movies in LA, probably in like 5 years or so. And I was like, well, I better go now, because if you guys are all going in 5 years, I got to go and work for 5 years just to be able to hang out with you guys when we get to LA. And, because these people, their parents were going to get them apartments or whatever, And so with those things, I did always have to work harder. I mean, even like getting groceries when I didn't have a car, I had to hold them and walk home with them, and there wasn't Uber when I first moved. So a lot of like circumstances that showed me that I had to work harder than other people and I had to do more than other people to get the same. And even though these things have dissolved a bit in my life, as I was being presented to keep talking about my limiting beliefs and someone's holding the space for it, and the question is coming again, and the question is coming again, and the question is coming again, I was realizing it still is inside of me. So let me see if I had any others. Oh, and the other thing too is about like having to be strong. That I have to be strong because if I'm weak, people are going to take advantage. People are going to zero in. And not to say that there hasn't been times in my life that people have been users, but that's gone now too. But being presented with this was bringing up these limiting beliefs of like, oh, if I'm weak, people are going to see that and come in. If I'm vulnerable there, if I share something about my past, people are going to throw it in my face or use it against me because those were things that had happened. But that's not where I'm at right now. But this was showing me these limiting beliefs actually still are lingering within me. And through this and through my healing journey, through my shadow work, through the ayahuasca, through all of this stuff, I do know in my heart and in my mind that the ability to be weak, the ability to be scared, the ability to be vulnerable is a lot more brave than my old definition of bravery and courage. My old definition of bravery and courage was like, all right, yeah, let's fucking try it, bro. I'll fucking do it, you know, was in that like kind of toxic masculine. And then now, as I've been embracing more of my feminine aspects and balancing both of those, I did see that like actually true bravery is like not being afraid of what would happen if you're weak. Knowing that if you have a moment of weakness, if you have a moment of vulnerability, that if you open up, who cares? If somebody tries, that's a reflection of them and that they're not able to hurt me because I'm in control of myself, in control of my own feelings, in control of my own actions, and that nobody can take anything from me. There was times in my life where I had to be very protective of myself because I actually, even though appeared strong, I realize now that a lot of that strength was around the protection. So that gave me a lot to think about for my third session and my third night of ceremonies, because then I thought, oh, well, okay, well, these other things are being removed from me. Well, hey, here's a whole bunch of stuff to add to the basket to get out of here, to send off. And so then I start changing my intention for that third night because I wasn't fully clear of what my intention was going to be coming out of those other nights with so much work done. And then I was like, oh, okay, so my third night, I need to get rid of these limiting beliefs and I need to be purged from them. I need to also ask Mother Aya, anything that is not serving me, any of these limiting beliefs or any of the stuff that is not serving me, please take it, whether I know it or not. So these are ones that I'm aware of, but please take the ones that I'm unaware of as well. Take them from me too, because I am not going to live this way anymore. As you guys know, when I'm going through the shadow work journey over the last 6 months, all of these different things were coming up. So also then we go to lunch that day. So after the ceremony, it's time for lunch, and that'll be our last meal until the next day, because then, like I said, you don't eat with the ayahuasca. And I was really hurting in my second night because they were serving chicken, and although there was plenty of vegetables and fruits and things of that nature, I was really depleted from the purging, from the shaking, from all of the stuff that I had been experiencing. By the time I got into the second ceremony, I was wiped out. And then by the end of the second ceremony into the third day, I was hurting. I was like, I am so depleted. Like I need more nourishment. And so eating on that third lunch, it actually happened the night before mine. It actually happened on our day off. So it wasn't ayahuasca that night. So it actually happened on the third day, the night before, because I was depleted. And so I saw the other vegetarian girl eating chicken. And I was like, oh my God. She's like, girl, I was struggling without protein and nourishment. She was like, I was hurting in that ceremony. She's like, by the time the ceremony started, my stomach was growling. I'm like, me too. And she's like, look, I don't like chicken, but I need to do what my body needs to do. And it was like, it gave me the permission. And so I haven't eaten chicken pretty much the whole time I've lived in LA. And I've been here, I don't know, 13 years or something like that. My first couple months here, I had eaten meat. And then I saw the movie Food Inc. I was also meeting a lot of people that are more in the alternative lifestyles, meeting people that are like breatharian and fruitarian and these different lifestyles. Obviously, there was a lot of vegan people, but these are also on the more extreme end. And people doing these very long fasts and, some people drinking their pee and stuff like that, and eating soil and a lot of other extreme food stuff. And so around that time, I had been getting a lot of information from people that I was meeting, but then also I watched Food Inc. And I was completely traumatized by this movie. What was happening to the animals, what was happening to the fruits, what was happening to the vegetables, what was in the grains, what was in the everything. Food Inc. attacks every single food group, the whole entire food pyramid. No one was safe. So that started probably, like I said, about 12 years ago, maybe. And so then I made the decision, I'm never going to eat meat again. This is horrible. This is terrible. I cannot do this. I cannot engage in this. And I'm grateful for that time because I do feel that it helped me energetically and it helped me. I do feel it helped me spiritually as well. It also helped me because when I came here from New York, I had a lot of aggression, not from only living in New York, but from being myself, from my own lived experience. And when I stopped eating meat, I found that anger had started to leave me. Rage had started to leave me. And it was the first thing that I noticed when I really gave up meat was like my demeanor started to change and my frustrations and aggression towards things started to change. And I didn't feel as like more fight or flight. So, and also the other thing, one of the biggest reasons why I had stopped eating meat was because of the antibiotics. In that movie, they talk about something crazy, like 80% of the world's entire antibiotics goes into the livestock in the US. And when I was younger, I would get all different types of infections, ear infection, eye infection, sinus infection, throat infection, skin weird infection thing. I was getting them all the time. And when I stopped eating meat, it stopped. And I barely ever had anything again. Like years and years would pass before I would have any type of thing happen again. I had like one sinus infection that turned to the ear infection during my shadow work journey 6 months ago. But like aside from that, literally it was all the infections were gone. And I was like, oh my God, this is probably because of the meat because I was eating the antibiotics. So I was very happy with my decision. And as you guys know, in March of this year, if you watch back some of the Tuesday night lives about the shadow work, I had been getting since my journey from February to May, which was very intense, very dark, a lot of heavy stuff came up. And one of the things that kept coming up to me at that time was I needed to evaluate every single aspect of my identity. Everything that I identify with, everything that I see myself as, I need to put a microscope under and get to the point of why am I seeing myself this way? I'm strong. Why am I strong? Okay, because I had to be. Why did I have to be? Because there was no other option and it was the only other way that I was going to feel safe. So now that's okay, I'm safe to be weak sometimes. I'm safe to be vulnerable sometimes. All of these different aspects of myself. Why do I see myself this way? Where does it come from? What is the origin? What am I trying to protect myself from? And this was happening with every single aspect of my life. And my food was coming up as well. Being a vegetarian was coming up as well. And I kept getting the message, kind of getting two different reasons in meditation. One, because I needed to break my identity with it. And two, because I'm going to be traveling more. And there's going to be situations where if I don't eat meat, I'm going to not be sustained for what I need. But I was very uncomfortable with this. Even though I was getting the message of meditation, I was very uncomfortable with this idea because I feel guilty. I don't want to do this. I don't want to engage in eating animals. I don't want to engage in this stuff. What if it's poison? What about the meat glue stuff? And all of these things that have become even worse in the last 12 years of not eating meat. More information has come out that's even more disgusting. And plus, I love cows more than anything. Cows are my heart. I love the cows. How could I do this to the cows? So there was one time that fucking Toca Madera in LA accidentally put real chicken in my vegan chicken salad. And I was crying. I felt assaulted. I felt taken advantage of because I was like, wow, the texture on this is really strange. And then I realized it was real chicken. And I was just bawling my eyes out because I was like, I feel it was not even my choice to do this. And so even though it was only a couple, maybe like 2 bites, I was devastated. So that was like the only time that I had engaged in that and I felt horrible. So I had been getting this message, and then in May, June, I went to Utah. I had a great time in Utah, but, I had been getting the message to eat meat, but I was not ready to do it yet. I was still very scared to do it. So I didn't, and I did these 2 crazy long hikes. One was like Canara Falls, and another one was around that area, and they were like hours and hours of hiking both ways. And by the second day, they weren't overnight. They were one day and then like a day later or 2 days later. And I was really struggling in the first one. And then the second one, I literally like was getting left behind. Like I was literally like other people. And I was just like, oh my God, like I feel like I'm going to fucking faint. And I'm like eating like a dried mango, trying to like get some sugar or something. And I just felt completely depleted. And it was, again, a little confirmation for what had been coming to me in meditation and saying, like, sometimes you're going to go places and there's not going to be enough options. And your only option is going to be carbs. And then you're not going to be okay because you're not getting what you need. And this is what happens. Like if I go to Arizona, all they have is like on the menu, not to say my friends still cook and accommodate me very well, but like go to a restaurant, it's like there's rice, there's macaroni and cheese, there's pizza, there's bread, but it's like those are not enough. And then my stomach is hurting because I'm eating just, low quality carbs. And so I already knew. So when I came back from Utah, and I already talked about this, that's when I first broke the vegetarianism. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get like a healthy piece of meat or like this. And then I'm like, what am I doing? I'm doing the same obsession with food. Why am I been vegetarian? Because I'm traumatized because of the freaking videos of what is happening to these animals and what these animals are doing and what they're suffering from. So what I'm doing is I'm literally identifying and living my whole life to avoid pain, to avoid guilt, to avoid sadness. And I've lived this way my whole life. I've done things forever. I've put myself in relationships with unavailable people to avoid pain, to avoid guilt, to avoid these things. And what do? End up dating people who are going to cause pain to me because they're emotionally unavailable. But so it's like this kind of vicious cycle is I was trying to avoid feeling guilt or feeling pain or feeling bad about what's happening to the animals. But my identity is getting associated with the avoidance of pain. And so much of me has operated on the avoidance of pain and the avoidance of discomfort. And after my first ayahuasca ceremony last year, one of my big revelations was I can't believe that the fear of discomfort almost prevented me from being liberated and free from the ayahuasca first time. So I broke my vegetarianism in end of May, beginning of June with a slice of pepperoni pizza. It's the only thing I've craved. I was like, I'm not going to get into a whole orthorexic thing of obsessing about the quality of the food and everything again and cause myself a whole nother fucking problem. This is besides the point. It's telling me to live in a different way and to live life more fully. And of course, it's not like I'm just going to eat like whatever. I've always eaten the healthy range, but I'm like, okay, let me have a slice of pizza. I did a video of it. I should share the video of it someday because I literally, like you see my face, it looks like I'm having a panic attack. I like can barely eat it. I'm like, and then afterwards I ate the slice and it's so thin. The pepperoni is so thin. It's like nothing. And it's pork. I don't want to eat pork, but I'm like, I just need to pull this Band-Aid. And then afterwards I slept for like 12 hours. It was literally like my cortisol went through the roof and then I slept for like 12 hours. But then I didn't eat again. I had a couple of bites a month before Peru then. So like it was like another 30 days. And then I had a couple of bites of a steak salad. And I was like, can you only put like a tiny piece of the steak in there? I'm like, they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, just go very light on it. Just a little less. And then I ate it in like this big green salad. And I was like, okay, my stomach will be fine when I go to Peru. If there's a chance that I'm not going to have food and I need it, I will do it then. I'm brave enough to do it. Even though still I didn't do it for those first days. And then I was suffering that night. So I ate the chicken. It was totally fine. It tasted exactly the same as chicken tastes. And also I'm pretty sure that they kill it on the property because then I saw some chickens like a day later and I felt bad. But okay, so that's how then I broke that vegetarianism and then went into my third day. I was able to eat some chicken or whatever it was before the ceremony, and I felt good by the time the ceremony was starting. So once again, I drank half a cup on the little bit more than half a cup on the third night. So I kept my dose the same of what had worked for me the night before or 2 nights before. And immediately after I take the ayahuasca, I fall asleep. I knock out, which was very weird because the other nights I was more nervous. My stomach was more like all over. I felt the ayahuasca so strong in my stomach that like I literally was nauseous. When I drank it in this one, I didn't feel it at all. And I was like, oh, tonight's going to be different. I feel completely different tonight. And then I knock out. And then I woke up about 30 minutes later, full blown feeling it. So it was kind of like that period of waiting for it to kick in. I was asleep, which is weird because I wasn't necessarily tired. And then wake up to the visuals, wake up to the pulsing, but it's a lot more gentle than it had been the nights prior. I don't know if that's because I was more used to it by that night. I don't know if the brew was different, or I don't know if it's because I had a lot of protein that I hadn't had. I hadn't had that much protein in over a decade. Maybe it was that. I don't know, because then it was not as painfully intense as it had been the previous nights. And I was like, okay, so this is going to be different. Like I was, having a lot of the same things. I was yawning. I was shivering a little bit. I was having the pulsing. I was having the vibrating in my hands and stuff. But I knew that it wasn't going to be as intense because I was feeling like it wasn't as intense as it was the night before. So my mind still felt pretty vacant, and it was just like Mother Aya was in charge. I'm like, Mother Aya, you're in charge here. You're in charge of my body. You are in charge. I surrender to the process, whatever has to happen. So, again, I start having the same issues with the purging. So I'm hanging over the bucket. My bucket's glowing, actually. The bucket is like lit up. I don't even know. Like one of the other women said that she saw the bucket glowing as well. I was like, I saw the bucket glowing. Like a glow stick. Kind of like those old glow in the dark Halloween buckets back in the day. The trick or treat buckets that would like the white ghost and it would like turn off and glow. It was looking like that. And so again, I'm over the bucket, but I can't really purge it out. And I know I have this 5% left of self-hatred. And now I have these limiting beliefs to purge. And so again, we have a similar experience than what I had the nights before, but I was determined to get it out. So again, hovering over, but it was just not as intense as it had been the other nights. And then I have to go to the bathroom, which was more intense this night. I had to go more times to the bathroom, and I needed help. I couldn't get up, and I would have to flash a light. So what they do is they do a little red light system. So you would flash your light if you need help, and then that lets the facilitators come over and give you some, either to talk to you, whatever you need, and what I needed was to get to the bathroom. And I was going to the bathroom like a lot that night. And I'd be like, and it was like, I'd be over the bucket, like trying to purge. And then I'm like, oh no, I need to go to the bathroom right now. Oh, I need to go right now. And then I'd be like, I can't even move. I can't even use my legs right now. And then I would like find the light and be like, and then one of the sweet, sweet facilitators would come over, help me to the bathroom, and then wait outside for me. And so the Icaros begin again. And if you haven't watched the other parts, definitely go watch the other parts because there's a lot of information that is describing a lot of this stuff that I'm not going to go over again. But the Icaros, the healing songs, the sacred songs of the Shipibo tradition are singing, and they're really causing things to feel like they're coming out of me. And I feel these limiting beliefs kind of being pulled out of me. And other people's Icaros were there as well. And so, like I talked about before, is that these maestros, which are shamans, but they don't call it shamans because that word doesn't exist in the Shipibo language. They would look at you and be able to see your energy field. And then they can see where things are out of tune, where there's dark spots. And then they sing to heal those spots and to restore you back to your original place of what your original energy field should be. So as they come around, I am again feeling like I'm about to purge, feeling over my bucket. Maybe a little tiny bit comes out, but again, not much. And then again, go into the bathroom. And what I hear when I'm in the bathroom, which it feels terrible in the bathroom because it's like, the medicine's kicking in so hard. Sometimes when you purge out the other end, it kind of reactivates the medicine more intensely. So like it feels almost like you're starting over again, like the trip is starting over again. So I kept hearing in my head when I was in the bathroom is trust that it's gone. Trust that it's leaving you and trust that it's not coming back. Trust that it's leaving you. You're feeling it leave. You're feeling it leave very intensely. Trust that it's gone. Don't have any doubt that it will remain. And so, and I don't know if I talked about this in the last parts. I think I might have talked about it in the live. But if not, this is the point that it happened. If I did, then this is the point that it happened because I'm looking at my notes from each night. So, like I've talked about, the people that end up in your group are the people that you are supposed to be with in this ceremony. So the ayahuasca, Mother Aya will start working on these people years before this. Like it will start calling to people maybe 4 years before they're ready to do it. If they need to be the person who is there in that group together, in that ceremony together, they'll start calling to that person years before. They'll start calling to that other person 3 weeks before if that's how going to get them there. The people who are meant to be there are there. Like I said, the guy who was like a brother to me, he was supposed to go to the Costa Rica location and things got flipped around and he needed to go to Peru instead because his schedule changed. We had other people who, were considering not going or were rejected to go because, like I said, there's different things. They have a very extensive intake process about the person's mental health and stuff. And then they did more work with that person and more coaching with that person. And then they saw that person actually would be a good match to do it. And then they changed the decision. So like any of those people in that group, they are meant to be there. So if like you're thinking about doing it, don't feel like you're in a rush to do it because your group of people is being orchestrated by the universe right now. So if ayahuasca is something for you, then don't worry. The time will be right with the right people. And then, so these Icaros for these people are in ways affecting all of us differently. And so, there was people there, like I said, there was the husband and wife there. And one of the things they were working on was about their adult daughter. Well, then I'm also didn't know that I was going to be dealing with stuff with the family as well. Another dear friend that I made there, she has a very extensive family history that has a lot of trauma with her father. And when they were singing her Icaros, I started bawling, crying, because then I was shown by Mother Aya that, and I've talked about this before, that I haven't spoke to my father in 20 years, since I was 16 years old, and then I just turned 36, and was showing me what I needed to do. She showed me my dad, me, my 2 sisters, and my brother, the biological siblings of him, and that we all need to come together and have kind of a bit of a reunion. I need to forgive him. There's not needing to be a conversation about that. I don't need an apology from him. It doesn't all need to be said, but we all need to come together and have this moment together to heal the family and to heal the lineage. And Mother Aya showed me my dad as a baby in my arms. And I was bawling, crying but the Icaros that were being sang to the woman who was there healing the relationship with her father and with her family and with her lineage. And as those Icaros were being sang to her, they were working on me, even though that's not my intention of what I was working on that day, which is why I say the group that you're with is divine. Because there's things that are going to come up that are being worked on that are not even your intention. And the other people who were working on the stuff with their adult daughter, I was being affected by theirs. What was crazy is when they were singing those Icaros in Shipibo, I was hearing words. That was my own mom's name. I heard my mom's name. It was saying Mama Patricia. in the song. And obviously that's not what they're saying. So what's crazy is these Ikaros, sometimes by the time they make it to your ear, it almost has like a different word. It's almost like your ear receives more what you need to hear than even what they're saying. And then I'm like, okay, well, what do I do, Mother Aya? I was planning on going to New York, which by the time that this is airing, I'm already going to be in New York and New Jersey, which is why I'm pre-recording this. And so I'm like, well, I was planning on going. Do I do it? Do I do it in 2 weeks when I was planning on going? Do I go to Jersey and make amends with my father? And Mother Aya's like, don't worry. Don't plan it all right now. Just accept it. Accept this information. I'm showing you the visuals. I'm showing you what needs to be done. Don't worry about the logistics right now. The logistics are going to pull you out of this situation. Don't start planning how you're going to do it. Trust that it's going to happen in the right way at the right time. Just accept this healing. And so one of the things that came up to me during that moment was, of course, obviously, if I haven't spoken to my father in 20 years, I was very hurt by our relationship. And one thing that I guess I also had not given enough attention to, well, it was my intention by doing it, but I haven't given enough attention to, has been how much I've also hurt my dad in that process. By me not speaking to him for 20 years, that the ayahuasca was telling me that I hurt him more than he hurt me by doing that. And of course, that's what I feel like I needed to do to protect myself. I didn't want to ever be hurt again by anybody for as long as I lived, which is why I've been living a life to avoid pain, because I felt like I felt enough pain in my life. And in the process, hurt my dad more than he hurt me. And a more immature version of myself would be like, good. Well, that's what you deserve then. You shouldn't have hurt me then, But then from this other place of understanding that I am currently older than my parents were when they had me, and all this shit went down, and all the stuff that fractured the family and hurt everybody, and all the stuff that traumatized all of us, I'm older than they were when that happened. And I already am, having the tools to do this at this age. They obviously didn't have the tools at that age, and they don't have the tools now. And so I learned in my first ayahuasca experience last year that parents are just doing their best, and maybe their best is not what you need or what you deserve, but it truly is the best that they were able to do, and that they didn't have the ability to do better, or they actually would have done better. And they didn't do their best because it was not available to them. Well, it was their best, but the best, objective best, was not available to them. They were not capable of it. So, then I realized that that's what I needed to do. And I just needed to, also that I'm safe now. I have been protecting myself for these last 20 years, but I don't have a reason to protect myself anymore. I'm safe. My life is safe. There's no threats. I don't need to keep protecting myself and hardening myself and keep living life this way in an avoidance of pain, that it's okay. And that I need to be the one to bring it together now. So, and obviously, I can't do that alone. As I saw in the vision that ayahuasca showed me, was that I also needed all of my siblings there for it. Even though it's like, okay, I was the first one to be able to walk away from my dad and from my family in that way, I also need my family to bring it back and to bring us all back together. And I don't know what this all will mean, in the future. But, at this point that this will be airing, then I'm going to be in Jersey. And, right now we are, between all of my siblings, we're orchestrating orchestrating an ambush, actually. We're orchestrating to see this kind of little family reunion that will just be, it doesn't need to be anything crazy. It's not an intervention. It's not all of this stuff. It'll just be, coming together and, not needing all the bells and the whistles. It doesn't need to be a Lifetime movie, all of that stuff. It could just be something that is a little bit more casual, It doesn't need to be super dramatized movie version. It could just be, okay, I come back. We could speak. We don't even have to speak about what happened. It's fine. We know. We've lived it. Everybody's already figured it out. Everyone's already hurt by it. It maybe doesn't need to be repeated. So that's what I'll be doing at the time of this airing. So that's why I'm not doing this live. And so then we'll be, so then I had that big breakthrough. Then she comes to me, the Maestra, who was just singing to the other woman about this. And then she sings the Icaros to me. And it just makes it even more, I feel more stuff being removed from me, more limiting beliefs being removed from me. And then I ended up having, like what I talked about in the last video, I ended up having some information coming through about, like, basically, again, once the medicine starts to get less intense on my body and then only in the mind, Mother Aya starts with the gay stuff. And she's like, well, I would like to bring this topic up again to you of maybe the best choice for you might be to just be with a woman. You're going to live your life. You can be very happy. It goes again with a lot of the stuff I talked about in my last video, so I'm not going to go over it again. But the video is, did ayahuasca make me gay? No, apparently I was gay, and I was lying to myself. But so this night, the third night, I laughed more and like opened up to the idea and was like, all right, it's a little bit, I get it now. And it was also, I kind of thought I was going into this process going to heal my relationship with men. And the ayahuasca was like, maybe you don't need to heal the relationship with men in that way. Maybe you could heal the relationship without dating them anymore. So maybe the healing can just be healing with no more re-wounds. How about that? Because what happens is every time I feel like I heal my relationship with men, I'm 10 times more wounded by them because then I allow another one in. And ayahuasca's like, maybe just stop that. Maybe just send them off. Wave goodbye and enjoy your life. So, end of the ceremony, I ended up going back to my room, and let's talk about the fourth night. So the fourth night is called Arcana, and Arcana is a little bit of a different ceremony. It's pretty much exactly the same, but energetically it's different. So all of the parts, the moving parts are exactly the same, but the actual energetic stuff that's going on is different. So the Arcana is the sealing up. So it is sealing up the energy and almost rearranging. So the other nights are much more about healing, removing, and cleaning, and all of those things. The Arcana, the fourth night, is more so like your energy kind of gets rearranged and you almost get like sewed back up and cleared back up and, get your energy back clean and then closed, sealed the deal. So once again, on that fourth day, we do another flower bath like we did on the first day. So before the last ceremony, before the Arcana in the daytime, the maestros pour the flower bath over you again. And this is actually the last ever retreat that Soltara was having in Peru at this location. And so this was their last ceremony. Oh, and one thing. So that third night was on 8/8, which whether you guys are into the Lion's Gate portal thing or not, it was the Maestra's birthday. So at the end of the third session, the third ceremony, we're all like, everybody's like kind of like groggy and barely able to talk. And they're like, yes, and we'd like to say Feliz cumpleaños to the Maestra. So we're all like, Feliz cumpleaños, Maestra. we're all like struggling to like talk, and everyone's like, yay, because you're really wiped out by the end. So that was so sweet to be able to spend her birthday. Like I said, also there was a lot of astrological stuff for myself as well, because the sun was in Leo, which is my sun sign. The Mercury was in Virgo, which is my Mercury. Jupiter in Gemini, which is also from my birth chart. There was a lot of aspects of this that were my birth chart, and then also Libra moon, which is also my moon. So it was like everything was like divinely in place for my birth chart and like my rebirth. So on the Lionsgate portal, all of these things like coming into place, it was so beautiful. It really was like my birth chart, a different version of my birth chart, me being reborn again. And I really did feel like that. So everybody going into the fourth night thinks that this is going to be easy. They're kind of thinking like, oh, okay, well, this is sealed up. We're just going to seal the deal up. But there's still a lot of work to be done. So the work is still being done on that night. And so at lunch that day, there was about 3 people in the group who were saying, I don't know if ayahuasca is for me. Like, I'm glad I had this experience, but I don't know if this is what's going to work for me. And I was kind of like, just wait for it. Just wait for it. The last night will knock your socks off. And I just know, because I feel like the ayahuasca is so intelligent that it knows what is going to happen. It knows how much time it has to work, and it will work by the end. Now, of course, not saying everyone gets 100% of everything healed and of what they need, but they do get what they need as far as, the intelligence of ayahuasca decision of what they need. So I'm like, okay, so we were having that discussion on the last day, and everybody is like, well, here's how I feel. Here's how I feel. Some people were feeling confused. Some people were saying like, I just don't know if I'm going to get what I need out of this. I just don't feel like it's happening for me. And then, other people were like, I feel great. This is amazing. So everybody's kind of in a different place in our ceremony. And for me, what I was feeling that day is I was just in complete awe. I was in complete awe. And I was like, I went in yesterday with this limiting belief about reciprocation. And I came back with, wow, yes, I do a lot for other people with advice and with my acts of service and things like that. But what these maestros have done for me, I could never repay them. They don't know me from a hole in the wall, and I'm going to walk out of here and maybe never see them again. And they have done for me 1,000,000 times what I could ever repay them for. And the universe is working in that way. So you might be giving and giving and giving, but then you also have to be able to look around and see how the universe gives back to you in different ways, because maybe that person is not capable of giving it. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't come back around, that someone else is going to give selflessly to you. And me being able to experience Soltara and also being able to experience Rhythmia last year, being able to experience these great gifts is beyond the reciprocation of what I could do for others. So yes, I've helped a lot of people, but then also I have been gifted by the universe the greatest help ever, So it just feels like I've said already in all these videos, when these Shipibo healers, these maestros sing to you, it feels like the most special thing in the world. It feels like thousands of years of tradition have come to this pinnacle just for you to heal, and without anything from you, Of course, you pay for the ceremony, you pay for the experience, but really with the amount of healing that happens is that it's worth 100 times more, because you're getting over 10 years of therapy. You're getting generations of healing. You're getting this individual thing that, even though I've done healing work and meditation work and spiritual work and stuff that still was not fully being removed from me. And someone asked in the comments, because I said last time, you could heal this stuff without ayahuasca. Someone was asking how. So before I talk about the rest of the fourth night, um, it's already out now by the time this is posted. You guys who are my Substack subscribers, my paid Substack subscribers, I just put out this monthly course for August. Every month I put out either a meditation, a live event, a course. Again, I was not able to do it live because I'm going back to New Jersey and New York for the week. So what I did was a parts work exercise. So this parts work is like, how I'm talking about that I had this part of myself that was filled with self-hatred that I didn't even know was there. And this part of myself was fighting with a part of myself that is the Leo self that wants, thinks I should get the trophy, that thinks I should get the gift, that thinks I should be the one to win the prize, So there's one part of myself is like thinking it's not worthy enough for these things. And another part of myself is like, hell yeah, of course I should have that. I should have all the opportunities. And these different parts of myself were fighting with each other inside of me. And sometimes when we're manifesting something, the reason it's not coming is because there's a part of ourself that really feels like we don't want it or deserve it, even though the more conscious part of ourself believes we do. So I did an exercise. It's different than my regular ones. A lot of times we do a hypnosis exercise. This time we did a parts exercise and demonstrated and walk you through the process of working with one part of yourself and another part of yourself and seeing what is the right thing to do. Do you remove this part of yourself? Do you integrate it? Does it need to, what is it protecting? Because this part of yourself is protecting something. This other part of yourself is doing something too. So we all have, multiple personalities. We just don't have it as a disorder. But it could be a disorder for some people, but it's not for that. It's more for there's parts of yourself that actually are secretly wanting different things. So if you are a Substack subscriber, go check that out. It was really good. It was really powerful. I did the demonstration based on also the stuff that came up during my ceremony, where I did the part of myself that hates each other or hates itself. And then the part of myself that came up, which was the opposite of that, because a lot of times we're having two opposite parts within us. We may have many different opposites within us. And this is also what I've come back to talking about, that we have a 360 personality when we're born, but then as we grow, it becomes smaller and smaller and smaller, and then it becomes a tiny little lane that we believe is our personality that we live in. And so it's connected to shadow work. So for people who are looking to do work like that without ayahuasca, to just do it in a more of a psychology type of sense, in a more grounded, sober, normal exercise, parts work is a great way to do that. And my Substack subscribers, that's what the recording for this month is about. And for those of you who are not the Substack subscribers, it's only $11 a month. You get access to all the other classes. We've done a past life regression. We did a future life regression. We've done the Meet the Guides. We've done a healing exercise, a healing vortex. We've done inner child work. Inner child work is also a form of parts work because the inner child is a part of yourself. So we did one of those. We've done all different things. So there's 8 months so far that I've been doing it. There's 8 exercises there, and those are very powerful. It's also great practice if you do want to get into seeing if you're a good subject for hypnosis. If you can do those and be put under in those settings, then it's a really good signal that you'll be good to do the past life regressions and stuff like that. So, okay. 4th night, again, I go into this with my intention. And now 4th night, I'm trying to kind of hack the system a little. I'm trying to hack the system and be like, you know what, Mother Aya, I'm done suffering these 3 nights. How about you show me how good it could be? How about, Mother Aya, you show me how beautiful it could be? How about you show me, with all of these things removed from me, no more limiting beliefs, no more self-hatred, no more self-sabotage. How about you show me how good it can be? I was trying to hack the system a little bit. And I go into it, and I'm kind of thinking a little bit selfishly, like, oh, show me how good it could be for me. Now that I don't have these obstacles in my way, show me this great life that I could have, this great love that I can have, this great lifestyle, the travel, living my dreams, doing everything I've ever wanted. So I'm like, I'll hack the system. I'll ask an intention. That'll give me a good night. Give me a wonderful night. But, again, I had the same old purging issue. I was over the bucket. I was trying to purge. I wasn't able to get it out. I was like, please, like my mind was again vacant. I was having the same sensations. I went through a similar process and I was really trying to get that last of it out of me over the bucket. Like, get out. Leave me once and for all. It's the fourth night. Get out. So I'm over the bucket, getting my ass kicked once again, night 4. Like I've talked about, maybe if I might have talked about it in another video, this is where it happened because I'm looking at my notes. It was on the 4th night. But then again, I don't know if I just said it to someone socially or if I said it in the videos. But I wanted to put my fingers down my throat because I'm like, please, I can't. I need to get it out. But you're not allowed to do that in ceremony because the medicine needs to work with the medicine's working. And you can't just do that. So I'm so badly needing to, but then I can't. So I flash my light and sweet, sweet Robert comes over just like he was there in my vomitivo. And my first ceremony of the whole thing where he helped me get through the purge in that first ceremony. And I'm like, Robert, please, I know it's not appropriate, but I want to put my fingers down my throat. And he's like, well, I'm so sorry. I know this is not what you want to hear right now, but unfortunately it means that the medicine is not ready to come out in that way then. Maybe there's something else you can do, like lay down and try to work through the nausea. I'm like, yeah, I know. Okay. And I'm like, well, this is very reminiscent on our last night for us to have the same conversation that we had on the first morning of this, because I also was struggling to vomit and get it out that first night. So it was a very full circle moment and it was very nice. And like I said, I connected so much with the facilitators, but especially Robert. He was such a sweetheart, such an angel, literally held the space so well with such security in a divine masculine way that was so balanced. And then we had, Gemma also holding it in like a very divine feminine way. We had like such a good balance between them. And then of course the Maestra and the Maestra holding it in such a divine feminine and masculine balance way. It was so perfectly balanced. So then, we're getting the Icaros sang to us, all the stuff, going to the bathroom, all the same things. And, I'm not being shown my wonderful, beautiful life. I'm not being shown much, actually, to be honest with you. I'm just kind of suffering and hurting here. And I'm like, well, damn, I'm supposed to be being shown how beautiful it could be, how great it could be. But I trust the process, Mother Aya, whatever you say. And then the friend who was next to me, they were singing the Icaros to her. And she bursts out crying, such a deep cry and releasing. And she has this big breakthrough. And when I hear her having this breakthrough, I'm just overwhelmed because I'm like, wow, oh, Mother Aya, you're right. This is how beautiful it can be. This is how great it could be. And it just showed me that the most valuable thing, they're more valuable than success, than lifestyle, than travel, than any of it. The most valuable thing on this whole entire planet is people healing, is people coming from all over and having so much pain and so much trauma and being able to heal it and transmute it. And I was just like crying out of joy because I'm like, wow, look at this. This is the most beautiful thing. people healing. And I was seeing on this fourth night, the Arcana night, where the breakthroughs are really happening. Those 3 people that said that they weren't sure if ayahuasca was for them, if this was going to be their thing, if it was going to work, I heard them having their breakthroughs. I felt it when those Icaros came and were singing by them. And as the Icaros came around and sang to all the different people, I was just like literally overwhelmed that I was like, wow. Selfish of me to think that the most beautiful thing is for me, because the most beautiful, valuable thing is healing. There is nothing more valuable. You know, anyone could have any lifestyle, any travel, anything. True healing is priceless. And I heard the friend that was next to me, I heard her say, I get it, as she was crying. And like having someone have a breakthrough. And later on, she had talked about how not only did what she got was her generational healing. She understand why she needed to be the one to do it, and why she was the one in the bloodline who dealt with this, and why she's the one who can heal it. And she saw herself healing generations back, having all different family members and ancestors come to her, and she saw it heal forward. She had future grandchildren that are not even born yet, great grandchildren coming to her, and she was in both directions fusing. And that's why she was crying so deeply, because she was healing the bloodline and healing in both directions. And it's like, that truly is as good as it can get. That is as beautiful as it can be. It's the most valuable thing that could ever happen on this planet, because if more people heal, the entire planet changes. We don't live this way anymore. Everything can change. And this world that we've been living in slowly changes one by one with those bloodlines healed. And eventually, we all come from one mitochondrial Eve, right? We all come from one woman in Africa, according to the genetics. So if it all comes back and we all start healing back the bloodlines, we really do heal everybody on the planet. And we heal forward, we heal everybody on the planet. So then I was just overwhelmed with the beauty of it all, because I was like, wow, this right here is as good as it gets. And yeah, so, that was how I ended my night, basically. And then we had our last final day, which was so amazing. We had our final ceremony, and it was just beautiful to have everybody come together and share. I would say most of the people did get most of what they were looking for. And like some of just, some highlights. There was a woman who was there from Dubai. And, when she first came in, she was a little bit intimidating, and she'd be like, I brought my own sheets. I did my own stuff, kind of like a little bit standoffish. And just watching her every single day, her smile got bigger and bigger and bigger. And she just had the biggest smile of anybody there. And when we were doing our final share, I loved what she said, because she was like, I just want to thank everybody, because I know I'm a little standoffish, and thank you for giving me my space when I needed it. And I was like, that was so beautiful, because at times I felt like, damn, does she feel a little bit left out? But then I don't want to like intrude on her. And just seeing her go through, we all had hard nights, seeing her just get a bigger and bigger smile. And then at the end to say like everything was exactly what she needed, that giving her space was actually perfect, and that's what she wanted. And like I said, my kind of little brother of the process, having him share about how, and even, we hung out after with a few of us in Cusco, but him kind of talking about how, like, I didn't want to call him like my little brother to kind of diminish him, because he's very intelligent. He knows what he's talking about. He's on his stuff. He's probably more successful than me. Like, it's not about being little, so I didn't want to diminish him. But then him kind of coming out of this process and being like, me and to one of the other women, he was kind of like, thanks for making me feel like a little brother, because I've always had so much responsibility. I've always had to be the one to figure stuff out and look over his own siblings. And he was like, this was such a good feeling for me to be able to feel like the little brother and to have this healing with feminine energy and being able to have these, and of course he has great women in his life, but a very different role, than kind of a big sister energy. You know, another guy who was from New York who said that he healed his inner child and finally, and it just makes me so happy because I immediately connected with him first on the way there. Immediately when we first got picked up and we were on the way to Soltara, I connected with him so much, and so much of his personal story mirrors my own personal story. And just being able to see that he truly healed his inner child and the part of himself that he came there to work on, to just see him leaving with that actually done and with forgiveness and all of these things. There was another girl who, she was one of the younger ones. She was from Norway, and, watching her just be kind of feeling like the younger one or maybe behind or feeling like she wasn't having the same experience as other people, to just know, leaving the experience, that like she's 100 steps ahead of us all. She might feel like she wasn't having the type of breakthrough experiences that some of us were, but like seeing that she was 100 steps ahead of everyone because she was only 25 years old. She's 100 steps ahead. We have people that are in their 70s there. We have people that are in 30s, 40s, 50s there. And she's already healing that and having those breakthroughs and seeing this part of herself and being able to go and travel the world by herself and go into Peru and be doing this experience. Like, it was amazing, and to see that transformation. One of the other guys there, he was there for his family. And it was like he was there for his wife. He was there for his family. I mean, a couple of the guys were, but one in particular, like, feeling so much like he wasn't getting what he needed. But it was like part of what he needed was to make this task, this really difficult sacrifice, to become better for his wife, for his children. And that's one of the things that I find so amazing about these ayahuasca retreats, is seeing the men, because the men almost always, I would say between this ceremony and my last ceremony, most of the men that are married, they're doing it for their wife and for their kids. And, a lot of times in our regular life, we're seeing men do stuff a little bit more like for their own gain or their own, and of course, not to say they're not doing it for their family, but on the outward level, it looks more like personal success. And then you come into these ceremonies and it's like a lot of these guys are going through hell and back of what it takes with the ayahuasca. This whole, you get your ass kicked, you're crying, you're puking, you're going through hell, you're having a rough time. But being able to be like, I'm willing to go through this for my family and to be a better dad, to be a better father, to be a better husband, brother, friend, it's inspiring. Let me see who else here. Also, we had a guy who I immediately connected with right away, and he dealt with fear. He said he came in with a whole list of intentions. He came in with 100 intentions, and he realized all of those intentions were fear-based, and he had to overcome fear. And there's nothing scarier than Mother Aya taking control of your body. There's nothing scarier. So it was like the way that he was able to have such a beautiful breakthrough with fear was everything. And like I said, there was also the family there. There was husband, wife, and brother. And just seeing them, they were such relationship goals. Everybody was like, damn, look at them. They are, like I said, 60 and 70. And I think the brother was in his 50s. And so seeing a family there being so gentle with each other, and so it was healing us just by seeing that, just by seeing husband and wife together, being so gentle with each other, being so loving with each other, seeing a brother and sister there, seeing a family there, being so gentle with each other. And, everybody was saying like, oh, that's relationship goals right there. So Um, that was it. On our last day, we took photos together. We did a hike, which I was not energetically prepared for the hike, but I did it. And then we had dinner together, we packed up, and then we did a fire together at the end of the night. And, we all wrote on paper what we were letting go of and threw it in the fire. And it was very special because it was the last night that Soltara was going to be in Peru. So, like I said, if you ever do have this experience, you got to trust that you're going to be there with the right people, because if it's taking a while or it happens quickly for you to have an experience, if it's right for you, then those are exactly the soul family that I believe you have a soul contract with to have this experience with. And of course, we have our free will, but I do believe that there is also things that are divinely guided and that are divinely planned. And if all of us were not there together, there might have been an Ikaro that wasn't sang for that person that the rest of us needed. So this was, like I had a lot of stuff being removed from me when my Ikaros were getting sang to. It was removing from other people as well. People were healing with their families. Mine was healing as well, So it really was just like an incredible experience. I did talk about the other videos where I talk all about Soltara, the Costa Rica location, talk about the other nights and stuff like that. So then after this, the next part will probably be the final part of this is going to be, I'm going to compare it with the other facility that I went to, which was Rhythmia, to see what is right for you. What would be the right location for you? Like I said, I was so blown away by Soltara because the way that they were able to keep the Shipibo tradition pure and then still be able to hold a very safe place that is still modern and accommodating, but being in that ceremony is like thousands of years old. It feels like thousands of years of wisdom, and like the ayahuasca vine is hundreds of years old to grow that vine. So that's hundreds of years of medicine wisdom that you receive. And all of it, just like the way that it was all done and the facilitators, I'm beyond grateful for the experience. And also what I said in the other videos is that if ayahuasca is not for you, it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody's mental state. It's not for everyone at every stage of their life. If it is, it will call you. And if it does, then you just got to surrender to the process when you're in it and not run away. Don't run out of that facility. Don't book a flight home. Sit with it, stay with it, do what it needs to do, allow it to do the work. Don't fight it. Trust Mother Aya, trust the maestros, trust the facilitators. You're in a safe space. But if it's not for you, and it's never going to be for you, then that's okay too. Because also just hearing these things and talking about it is healing through just transmutation. Hearing about these other transmutations and hearing about this stuff, knowing that this healing is happening on the world is enough. It is enough to know that this is possible. And like I said, there's other ways to do this. Some people suggested breath work. Some people suggested different things. Like I said, I have in my Substack, I did the parts work exercise, which is really powerful. But if you're not a Substack subscriber, you could read books or different things on parts work as well. There's plenty of different types of parts work and facilitators. That's another great thing. Like I said, on my Substack, it's very easy. If you're already a member, it's only $11 a month. And that's one easy way that you could go and do it right now, because by the point that this airs, it will already be up. So, guys, thank you for taking this journey with me through nights 3 and 4. And I will be updating you on what happened in my potential family reunion sparked by the ayahuasca. So I'll see you guys next time.